What is going on, everybody? It is another mock draft Monday on the Lots of Thoughts, a sports podcast YouTube channel. Thank you very much for tuning into this Quick Thoughts episode. We're going to be going through another mock draft, and just as a precursor, I am pre-recording this. I'm going to be out of town for work, so I'm not recording this after the playoff games that have just happened. You're watching this on Monday or Tuesday or whenever, right around January, pulling up the calendar, January 22nd or 23rd, or maybe after that. This weekend's playoff games have not happened. So I have not seen the Ravens and Texans play. I have not seen the Chiefs and Bills, the 49ers and Packers, or the Cowboys, not the Cowboys, they got eliminated, or the Buccaneers and Lions. So this draft order is old for you, but hopefully fairly close. And if there's any news since I'm recording this on Thursday evening, then I apologize for not drafting appropriately. Maybe a team has traded up for one, the first overall pick, and I don't know. I apologize if that's the case. But today we're going in with two main caveats. Every draft is dictated that I've done. Every mock draft that I've done is dictated by what Chicago does at the top. Do they trade out? Do they keep the pick? And in this case, the first caveat, Chicago's going to keep Justin Fields. And the second caveat, they're going to trade out of the pick. I guess those kind of go hand in hand. The question is where. And in this draft, we're going to have the New York Giants trading up. They're trading up from 6 to go to the top spot in the draft to take their quarterback of the future. Now, I don't know if the Giants are sold on any of these quarterbacks. I don't know if they're sold on Daniel Jones. But at the end of the day, at pick 6, they're not going to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft: Caleb Williams from USC, Drake May from North Carolina, or Jaden Daniels from LSU, the Heisman Trophy winner. So if they're going to get one of those top quarterbacks, they're going to have to trade up. I could easily see them sitting where they are and taking a tackle or wide receiver, which I think would be a mistake. I could see them taking a lesser quarterback here, or trading back and taking a guy like Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. But in this case, I'm going to have them moving up. They're going to give up a first next year. I don't know what else it's going to take. The draft is clearly saying more. We'll give them a second too. I think it'll probably take a little bit more than that even. And the Bears trading back at a 6, keep Justin Fields. They've got two picks, 6 and 9, ready to go to take 2 of the top 9 players. So the Giants pick 1. Listen, I could see them going Drake May even if they had pick 1. A lot of pundits are not sold on Caleb Williams being the top pick, but I believe Caleb Williams will be the top pick, and that's who I have the Giants taking, getting their quarterback of the future, who sits behind Daniel Jones for a year. And then with Daniel Jones' contract, he's essentially on a 1-year deal because they can back out of the last 2 years of that deal. And Caleb Williams will be the guy for New York. Washington at pick 2. 2 NFC East teams get new franchise cornerstones, and Washington, new regime in there. I don't know who they're going to hire as head coach. I hope it's Ben Johnson for the sake of Washington fans. And Ben Johnson paired with Drake May, I think, would be an exciting young prospect to build around in terms of a foundation for an offense. They already got decent weapons there, decent running backs, I should say, and a decent defense still, despite trading away some pieces there. So Washington could be on the up and up. New England at pick 3. Once again, New England, I don't know where they're gonna go. Every mock draft, I talk about New England and the potential for them to take a tackle or wide receiver. At the end of the day, if I am New England, I think I would take a quarterback. I know I would take a quarterback. And when new head coach Gerard Mayo was asked about that, he said, we're going to take a very important position and we're going to take it early, or something of that nature, which to me means quarterback. And so with Jaden Daniels still on the board, clearly the third best quarterback in the draft, in my opinion, they get their guy in Jaden Daniels. Maybe he sits behind Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi to start the year, but he's their guy for the future. Arizona at pick 4. Every single mock draft I do, Arizona loves where they are because 3 quarterbacks go in the top 3. Whether Chicago trades out of that pick or not, a quarterback's going number 1 overall. And then Washington's, I think, more and more by the day, I think they're taking a quarterback. And New England, more and more by the day, I think they're taking a quarterback. So Arizona gets the pick of the litter from all the wide receivers and all the tackles and all the tight ends available. And in this case, they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., give an elite weapon to Kyler Murray, a weapon that he hasn't had since DeAndre Hopkins was wearing that red Arizona uniform. Pick 5 for the Chargers. I usually go tight end for them. I take Brock Bowers here, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I think Malik Neighbors is a guy who has a really high ceiling. And with the whiff on Quentin Johnston last year, I could see the Chargers going for another receiver. Keenan Allen's not getting any younger, although he's still very good. And adding another weapon to, Justin Herbert's system, whether Jim Harbaugh is the head coach or Bill Belichick or whoever else, I think adding another weapon doesn't hurt, whether it's a wide receiver or tight end. So I'm going Malik Neighbors here, wide receiver at LSU. Chicago at pick 6. This is the first of their their 2 picks out of 4. I think at the end of the day, I think they're comfortable with Cole Kmet at tight end, so I think they pass on Bowers. I think one of these picks is going to be a tackle and one's going to be a wide receiver. And considering Tennessee and Atlanta are behind them, I don't think Atlanta's taking a wide receiver. I think they feel comfortable letting a wide receiver drop in that case, and they're comfortable getting Rome Odunze later on. Now, that could be a risky play because if Chicago takes a tackle and maybe Tennessee doesn't love, if Chicago takes Joe Alt, maybe Tennessee doesn't love Olu Fashanu and they end up taking a guy like Rome Odunze. But in this case, I think Chicago's going to take the risk. I think they take the best tackle available, and that's Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Tennessee, pick 7. I like all 3 players here at the top of the NFL mock draft database simulator draft board for them. Brock Bowers gives them a weapon at the tight end position. Rome Odunze gives them a weapon at the wide receiver position, and Olu Fashanu, or Fashanu, as I've been corrected to say, would give them a solid tackle to build their offensive line around. At the end of the day, they think they have their franchise quarterback in Will Levis, or at least they're willing to assume that for the time being. So why not give him a weapon or a guy to protect him? The question is, which of the 3 would it be? And if I am Tennessee and I'm sitting here with the questions I have on the offensive line, with Derrick Henry probably out of the question, with a wide receiver core that desperately needs help, especially I don't know what the future for DeAndre Hopkins is. I think they go Brock Bowers here. I think they add a weapon. I don't think it's at the wide receiver position. And Brock Bowers, I think, of these players, has one of the higher ceilings in the draft. Atlanta. Now, I could see Atlanta going wide receiver. I could see them going tackle. I could see them going defensive player. I could see them trading out of this pick. And at the end of the day, it depends on who is running the show. If it's Bill Belichick, which I think it's more than likely to be at this point, I could easily see him trading out of this pick. It's also, if it's Bill Belichick, I could see him trading up in the draft to take a quarterback, but that's neither here nor there. Because I think if assuming they find the quarterback, they need more than just one player. And they're sitting here where I think they have plenty of offensive weapons, right? We talk about Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Bijan Robinson. I don't think they go an offensive weapon here. Offensive line could use a little help, although their tackles are fairly strong. I just don't love this spot for them. I'm going to have them taking Dallas Turner here. I think they need an impact defensive player. It's tough because I would love for them to take a quarterback. But I'm going to have them taking Dallas Turner. Even though the mock draft database simulator here suggested Rome Odunze, I highly doubt they go wide receiver here. So Chicago likes the way this shook out. Rome Odunze going pick 9. I think they're very happy with Rome Odunze falling once again to the 9. They took a risk by taking Joe Alt. Rome Odunze falls to them. If Rome Odunze went 8, that would have hurt them a little bit. But at the same time, they need pieces all over. So maybe Dallas Turner would have been their pick, or a guy like Kool-Aid McKinstry to help in the defensive backfield. The Jets similarly also love the way this came out. I think the Jets' absolute ceiling for excitement would be one of the 4 weapons that have been drafted. Odunze, Neighbors, Harrison, or Bowers reaches them, or one of the 2 top offensive tackles. And that's Fashanu and that's Alt. And since Alt already went, the Jets go Fashanu. They get another lineman to protect Aaron Rodgers, which they so desperately need. Minnesota pick 11. Listen, Minnesota could go quarterback, depending on Kirk Cousins' status. They could go edge rusher. They could go corner. They could go a lot of different places. I think they need help on all 3 levels of the defense, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, I think they draft the best player available on their draft board. And I mean, it depends on what you think here. I haven't watched a whole lot of tape from all of these guys, but I've heard some more doubts about Kool-Aid McKinstry than I have from Latu about UCLA. And you get one of the better, essentially the second pass rusher taken in this draft. I think that really helps your defense out. I think that's the biggest position of need for the Minnesota Vikings. Denver at pick 12. Listen, I feel like every time I do a mock draft, I get a comment. Denver's going to take a quarterback at pick 12. The thing is, at the end of the day, Russell Wilson is owed a lot of money. And if the Denver Broncos let him go, they owe, essentially it's $80 million. This is a cap hit. If you're paying $80 million for the cap hit, and you got to have a backup quarterback in theory, then I don't love investing a whole lot of money into a first round quarterback. And maybe that means they bring Russell Wilson back and they still draft someone. I don't know. Maybe Russell, if Russ is getting paid 40 or whatever his contract is, and then maybe, a guy on a rookie contract, even if it's a top 12 pick, is not making that much, and maybe the quarterback position isn't eating up that much of your salary. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's still tough for me to assume they're going to waste that much money of their roster on the quarterback when they have needs in so many positions. And I don't think Russell Wilson was that bad. Do I think the relationship is strained between him and Sean Payton? Yes. Do I think it can't be amended? No. And I know that's crazy to say given the situation that's happened this year and the possible players union issue that the Denver Broncos might have for trying to get Russell Wilson to avoid his injury clause in his contract. At the end of the day, I just can't see them taking a quarterback here. I have it other mock drafts, so don't kill me. But they're gonna. If these are the options, I think they go defensive player. A guy like Jared Verse, I think, could really fit into Sean Payton's defensive system. I think it makes the most sense. Vegas Raiders at pick 13. I also have gotten a few comments about them taking a quarterback, and I've had them taking quarterbacks in recent drafts. I've had Denver taking quarterback in recent mock drafts. But the Raiders, I could see going Michael Penix Jr. here. I would not be surprised. But despite it being their biggest need, I think this season is seen as a rebuilding year. And if they don't love Michael Penix, I think it's a reach for Bo Nix, and I think it's a reach for JJ McCarthy, especially when you have enough picks to get back into the first round if you so need to draft one of those two guys. So if they don't believe in Penix, they're not going quarterback here. And if they're aiming for a longer term rebuild, which I think might be smart for them, I could see them going an impact defensive player. You could pick your pick of the corners at the top of the draft, whether it's Kool-Aid McKinstry, whether it's Nate Wiggins, whether it's Cooper DeJean, whether it's Terrion Arnold. I've heard great cases for all of them. I'm going to go Nate Wiggins here. He's not a guy that I've targeted in recent drafts. And that gives Vegas a weapon on the defensive side of the ball, no matter who their head coach is going to be. New Orleans at pick 14. An interesting one, surely. With Michael Thomas, on the edge of his career, certainly on the way out. I could see them adding a wide receiver to give Derek Carr another weapon. I could see them going offensive tackle. I could see them going a defensive player. But at the end of the day, Derek Carr got hit a lot this year. Adding a guy like J.C. Latham to that offensive line would certainly help that situation. Give him more time to be able to hit those weapons like Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. And to a lesser extent, I'm forgetting his name, the quarterback. But at the end of the day, giving another team another offensive lineman certainly can't hurt. And the Saints need one. J.C. Latham makes a lot of sense for them. Indy at pick 15. Taysom Hill was the guy I was thinking of a second ago. Indy at pick 15. Could go corner, could go wide receiver. I think they get one end of that matchup. Keon Coleman could be a guy for them. Kool-Aid McKinstry could be a guy for them. I have trouble knowing what Shane Steichen would really be interested in. I know he's not the one making decisions, but at the end of the day, you got to pick someone to fit his system. So I think Kool-Aid, if you're drafting for best player on the board, I would pick McKinstry here. That doesn't mean that's necessarily where they're going to go, but that's where I'm going to have them going today. Kool-Aid McKinstry goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Pick 16 for Seattle. Listen, Jer'Zhan Newton, he's a guy who I've had them drafting in multiple drafts. He's a guy who's, fits Pete Carroll's defensive system. Now, Pete Carroll's no longer there. So maybe this pick deviates. I don't know who their head coach is going to be. A lot of people think it's going to be Dan Quinn. I could see a guy like Jer'Zhan Newton being a Dan Quinn pick too. So I'm gonna take him here. He's the best talent available according to this list, and in most people's opinion that I see online when reading articles around the draft, I think it could make sense for Seattle at pick 16. I think that's pretty good value. Jacksonville at pick 17. Listen, I think Jacksonville probably ends up with a wide receiver. I talked last mock draft about Calvin Ridley needing to bounce back again next year. He's a free agent, and I didn't realize. So if they don't have plans on bringing him in, I could see them signing a big name, whether it's Mike Evans or T. Higgins, that kind of guy. But at the end of the day, you could add multiple additions to this offensive core. I think it needs serious upgrades. I could also see a tackle being taken here. Doug Peterson certainly likes good offensive lines. I think we've seen that from his time in Philly. So I could see that happen. But I'm going to take a wide receiver here. I'm going to take Keon Coleman. Give another weapon to Trevor Lawrence and hope that disaster that happened this year right before the playoffs doesn't happen next year. Cincinnati at pick 18. A almost every mock draft I have them taking offensive tackle, and I know they could take a wide receiver. T. Higgins leaves in free agency. It's just tough for me not to pick another player to protect Joe Burrow when he's gotten really hurt in 2 years of his very young career. When Joe Burrow is healthy, he's a top 2 quarterback in the NFL. At the end of the day, you can't always rely on that, and so the more protection you can give him, the better. Amarius Mims is a guy who's got a high ceiling. Some drafts, he's going top 10. So I could easily see the Bengals picking him here at pick 18. Pick 19 for the LA Rams. This is a fun one, man. This is the first playoff team eliminated. Cooper DeJean could be a guy for them. Their defense certainly needs help. Their offensive line certainly needs help. I mean, Matthew Stafford was a wreck in that playoff game, just completely battered. And I think he might have had a head injury that was not diagnosed. So I can see them going offensive line. And at the end of the day, it depends on what Sean McVay values, in my opinion. And McVay heavy on the offense. They have great weapons there. I think if you protect Stafford more, you got more of a chance to use him and be one of those dominant offenses in the NFL if you can keep Kupp and Nacua and Kyren Williams healthy. So Fuaga helps keep the quarterback healthy and helps give him more time to hit those weapons. I think that makes sense for them. Pittsburgh at pick 20. Pittsburgh could go corner. Opposite of Joey Porter really helped that defense. Pittsburgh could go quarterback here. I wouldn't hate it. But they assume that Kenny Pickett's competing for the starting job. They could go wide receiver. I don't necessarily see that. I like Terrion Arnold for them. I feel like he's slid a little bit, even though he's only ranked 22nd in this list. I've seen him ranked a lot higher in a lot of lists out there. So Terrion Arnold's the pick for them. Miami at pick 21. I think they go offensive line 9 times out of 10. But there is that 1 time out of 10 that's talking to me that says Braylon Trice might be a good pass rusher to add to this defense. I'm going to pick one of these 2 Washington players. Is it Braylon Trice? Is it Troy Fontenot? I want you right now. Go to the bottom of this video. Write in the comments who you want the Dolphins to take. Dolphins fans, do you want an offensive lineman? Do you want an edge? If I'm a Jets fan, do I want an offensive lineman or do I want an edge? If I'm a Jets fan, I probably want them to take like a quarterback. Just, the least value possible. Have you locked in? You locked in your pick in the comments. I'm going to go Troy Fontenot here. I think Tua clearly needs more protection, and he's the best tackle available in the draft. Philly needs help in the defensive backfield, man. Desperately. Desperately. Cooper DeJean. I think this is an easy pick for them. I could see them going safety. Guy like Cameron Kitchens kind of, rises his way up the board. But I think that makes sense for them, and they're happy with that pick. Houston at pick 23. So now we're getting into the picks that are not finalized. I could see them adding another defensive piece. I could see them adding another weapon. But at the end of the day, I feel good about their weapons. As long as they can stay healthy next year. Tank Dell and Nico Collins and other accessory pieces. Adding another defensive player to DeMeco Ryans' system makes a lot of sense. I think Braylon Trice is an exciting player with a really high ceiling. I'm going to take Braylon Trice. Pick 24 for the Dallas Cowboys. So this isn't true because Houston has Cleveland's pick. That's why. So we're still in the teams that have been eliminated. Dallas Cowboys at pick 24. Where did the Dallas Cowboys go this offseason? I don't know. They're keeping Mike McCarthy, which would stress me out as a Cowboys fan. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but it would if I was. I could see them adding a corner. I mean, I'm forgetting his name. Why am I blanking on his name? Got burned multiple times. Long time corner. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. I'm really gonna have to look it up because it's gonna annoy me. Cowboys depth chart. They acquired him from Indy, spent a lot of time with New England, and I just can't remember his name off the top of my head. Stephon Gilmore got beat a lot in the game versus the Packers. Jordan Love had an easy day because his wide receivers were wide open. So I could see them adding a corner here to take the place of Gilmore. But you also have Trayvon Diggs probably coming back from injury next year. Now, every team runs 3 corners nowadays pretty much, right? Your nickel corner is just as important as one of your starters. I don't see them going wide out at the end of the day. I just can't see it. So could they go offensive lineman? Could Graham Barton be a guy who could fill in one of those guard positions, especially if someone walks? I could see that. I like that pick for them. Help, shore up the offensive line and help Dak Prescott have more time to throw. I mean, he looked really good this year behind a solid offensive line. It can't hurt to continue to improve that. Green Bay Packers, pick 25. Listen, okay, so now starts the playoff teams that we don't have seeded. I could see them going corner. I really could, but You know what? I'm gonna have them go in corner. Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. I could see him even rising further up the draft boards. By the way, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes top 20 by the end by April when we're talking about this. So I think this pick makes sense for them. I wouldn't hate Lassiter. I wouldn't hate some of the other corners in this draft. Tampa Bay at pick 26. If Mike Evans walks, I like Brian Thomas Jr. as a replacement. And even though they need pieces elsewhere, I like that. I like that. That was the first thing I thought of, but I really like it. I'm going to take Brian Thomas Jr., a big body receiver. It really fits the Mike Evans mold and their offense. Mike Evans is going to get paid a lot of money. You got free up some space to retain Baker. Consider some other pieces. Maybe Mike Evans goes to my New York Jets. Come on, Mike. Be that wide receiver one. Let Garrett Wilson be that 1B. Anyway, Arizona having Cleveland's pick at pick 27. Listen, they have pick 4. There was early points in the season where Houston and the Cardinals were like pick 1 and pick 5. It was like, oh, the Cardinals might get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, that didn't age well. But they did get Marvin Harrison Jr. in this draft, and it's clear that they're not thinking quarterback, and that Kyler Murray is certainly a guy they should build around. Adding a great defensive player like Robinson from Penn State would be a smart decision. I like that a lot. I think he's the best talent available in this draft right now. I'm taking Robinson. Kansas City at pick 28. I think they were probably hoping Brian Thomas slipped to them. At the end of the day, I would be so shocked if they don't got wide receiver or offensive tackle. I think they could get a right tackle to help shore up that offensive line because what's his name was really suspect. I don't even remember the name of their offensive tackle. And then a wide receiver. I mean, getting Patrick Mahomes another weapon is a desperate need, especially with Travis Kelce seemingly starting the downturn of his career. The question is, of the wide receivers available, whether it's Troy Franklin, whether it's A.D. Mitchell, whether it's Xavier Worthy, whether it's Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, do you value them more than the best tackle available, who's Jordan Morgan right now? And I do. I think I do. I think A.D. Mitchell would be an exciting guy to add to this offense. You could just imagine Patrick Mahomes throwing him jump balls in the end zone. I like it. Buffalo at pick 29. Listen, their needs always show wide receiver. And I don't know the contract status of guys on their offense, but I would be surprised if their top 2 wide receivers, Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, are not back next year. I think they add a defensive player. Kamari Lassiter might be the best defensive player available here. They want to push me to wide receiver. I just can't see it. I'm taking a corner for them, Lassiter out of Georgia. Pick 30 for the Detroit Lions. I wonder what this order is based on. Probably record or seeding. It would have to be. Listen, the Lions, I don't know where they go. There's still some good quarterback crops available, but could they trade out of this pick? Could they be a candidate to move back? Could they be a candidate to add a wide receiver? I mean, they desperately need help outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got Josh Reynolds and they've got Jameson Williams, who hasn't developed like they hoped he would. It's tough for me not to take a defensive player for them. I think another weapon would just be on the defensive side would just be great. Kalen King could be the pick here. Leonard Taylor could be the pick here. I'm going to have them trading out of this pick. I think there's going to be a team that's going to trade up. And we talked about the Vegas Raiders trading up to this, trading up back in the draft, back in the first round to be able to draft a guy who they feel is a value, and they already don't have a lot of picks. I think at the end of the day, they're saying that's too much. Okay, fine. We'll give them a 3rd round next year. I think at the end of the day, the Raiders are going to end up recouping some picks from Davante Adams. I think they're going to end up moving on from him. And I was joking about Mike Evans going to the Jets. I think it's more than likely that Davante Adams makes his way to my New York Jets and rejoins with Aaron Rodgers. I can't actually trade this, and I'm not sure why. It will not let me. Just adding random picks? No, okay. Well, since this function is not working, you know what? Maybe if I do it the other way. Maybe that's why. Maybe it wants the team who's here in the draft to be the one to trade up. Do I need to give more? I'm just adding all these picks. I'm not building the package here. I can't change the pick here, but keep in mind that this is the Vegas Raiders trading up here. I think they gave up a 2nd next year. I think, maybe they get some picks back from Davante Adams, as I was talking about, and they take their quarterback of the future, Michael Penix Jr. In the last mock draft, I had them taking Michael Penix Jr. at their original pick. What was it, pick 13? No, this is not even close. Where the Raiders pick 13. So this is way better value. They get Nate Wiggins, an impact player on the defensive side of the ball, and they get Michael Penix Jr., their quarterback of the future. Pick 31 for the San Francisco 49ers. I could see them going tackle here with not a lot of great corners on the board. I don't think they reach for Kalen King. Jordan Morgan could make sense for them. I like the pick. And then Baltimore. Listen, I could see another team trading up to try to get a quarterback here in the back of the first round. I don't know who that is. Maybe that's a team like the Denver Broncos. But you know what? To hell with it. It's my draft. I'm going to have fun with it. We're going to do a trade. Will it let me trade with the Baltimore Ravens? Oh, that's Dallas, not Baltimore. And the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos have no draft capital, but that's okay. And we can't make it happen. I love this simulator. This is really great. But pretend this is the Denver Broncos. They take their guy in J.J. McCarthy. Broncos get their quarterback of the future. Of course, the trade machine doesn't like it, or the draft machine, because it thinks that the Baltimore Ravens are drafting a quarterback. But we had five quarterbacks go in the first round of this draft. With Caleb Williams to the Giants. We had Drake May to North Carolina. We had Jaden Daniels. I just said that. Drake May to North Carolina. Drake May to Washington. We had Jaden Daniels to New England. And then in the very back of the draft, we had Michael Penix Jr. to the Raiders, who traded up with the Lions, and J.J. McCarthy to the Broncos, who traded up with the Ravens. We also saw some interesting picks. Joe Alt and Rome Odunze ended up being two franchise cornerstones for the Bears to build around Justin Fields. The LA Chargers added another weapon for Justin Herbert, but not a tight end. The Tennessee Titans added another weapon in a tight end to help Will Levis out. Jets get their tackle to protect Aaron Rodgers and maybe trade for Devontae Adams in this scenario. The Saints get another tackle to protect Derek Carr. The Jacksonville Jaguars get another wide receiver to help Trevor Lawrence out. The Rams and the Bengals go back-to-back on tackles to protect their quarterbacks. The Steelers get a corner to go opposite Joey Porter. The Texans get an impact defensive player for DeMeco Ryans' system. A lot of fun picks. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers let Mike Evans walk and replace him with Brian Thomas Jr. The Chiefs get a wide receiver help and A.D. Mitchell, a guy who Patrick Mahomes will fall in love with. And of course, we've talked about the quarterbacks. Listen, I don't hate this mock draft. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I mean, maybe the last pick of J.J. McCarthy was a little bit of a stretch. Maybe the Ravens should have just drafted a defensive player and called it a day. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I think this is fun conversation. I think drafts are made for that. Like I said, I'm pre-recording this, so I apologize if anything's different by the time you're watching this. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Where do you think I went wrong? Where do you think I went right? What do you think of the mock drafts on the channel? Appreciate you watching this Quick Thoughts episode. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.